So what are the most popular language sounds in the world? Part 2 is to look at the vowels. We've seen the consonants. Now on to the vowels. So looking at the IPA chart here, we see the vowels are over here in the middle on the right. And we see this picture of the mouth facing left, and the vowels are identified by simply different places to put your tongue. So basically, if your tongue is high in front, or here they say closed, as in a closed mouth with your tongue in the front, that's when you get E. And if you have open mouth or a low tongue with a tongue in the back, that's when you get Ah. So anywhere in here, you can, depending on the height and the frontness and backness of the tongue, you can get all your different vowels, as well as the third dimension being whether you round your lips or not. By rounding your lips, even though your tongue can be in the same position, you can get a different vowel, such as here, the high front, you get E, but if you round your lips while saying that, you get U, which would be like the French U vowel. So you see the difference with vowels is like vowels are like much more liquid, they're much more flexible than consonants. Consonants have a bit more of like these defined places where you can make them, and yes, there can be some flexibility of exactly how far forward or back you move your tongue or whatever, but also and then you have these defined different means of making that closure in your mouth. So it's kind of set. It's kind of like they're more like locked into a specific combination of place in the mouth and type of closure. But vowels, on the other hand, are really just kind of like this like free open space. It's called the vowel space, where you can really be at any point in this entire chart. So even the whole idea of identifying these vowel letters is a bit less precise than you would see with the consonants. It's kind of like you just pick your best guess that fits. Like if you see a vowel, it's up here, you're probably going to call it E. If it's around here, you'll call it A. But exactly which letter you pick could depend on what your whole vowel system is together, and what makes sense, or what seems to fit overall. But you really can see differences in there's kind of like a whole like a cluster or a cloud around each of these spots where it's possible to say like what is an O. Some O's they sound more like ooh, and some O's sound more like aw, and so on. So it's a little bit less precise, but nonetheless, there are common patterns that we see repeating across many, many languages. So let's take a look at Foible here at the database to see what are the most popular vowels. So we'll select segment class, only vowel. And here we go. Wow, look at this. The first 5 are E, U, A, E, O. So there they are. There's the famous 5 vowel letters of the Latin alphabet that we use, and these 5 are the most 5 popular vowels. So here we can see that E is the winner for most popular. We saw that M is the most popular consonant, and now you see that E, as in written as the letter I, but sounding like E, E is the most popular vowel. So I guess if you put them together, you're saying me, 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 me. I guess that's the most popular syllable in the languages of the world, is to say me, me, me. So there it is, and you can see how I guess it's popular. I guess it's when you put your tongue high in front, and this, you can see how based on the shape of this vowel space, like it's kind of pointing towards this in the corner, because when our tongue is high, we have more room. Like we have more room to move the tongue forward and back. Like there's more space when our tongue is high. Whereas when our tongue is low and mouth open, we have ah, 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 ah. We don't have as much room with the mouth closed, like e, oo, e, oo. We have more room up top. So that's why it has this kind of pointy shape and it's narrow at the bottom. And if you sort of work with that pointy space and go right into the point in the corner there, that's E. So it's sort of like a natural kind of limit of how we can shape our mouth. And yeah, pretty much almost most languages have it. And it's just such an obvious choice for a vowel. Now, as far as the second two are pretty close, and yeah, all of these are pretty close in their frequency. So we have oo and ah, and that's what we have at the back. Oo. So now we have the tongue high back with rounded lips. Oo, and then ah. Yeah, it's written kind of low front here. It's kind of typically this letter ah though is used to refer to any kind of like low or vowel, or as an open mouth vowel. So the tongue is low. So almost every language, possibly every, not sure about the exceptions, but certainly almost every language has some kind of a low vowel. So like some kind of vowel made with the mouth open, like an ah. You can see that all of these different letters down at the bottom are all just like different versions of the letter A, starting with your basic letter A and then written in all different variants of it. That represents your low or open mouth vowel. So you have one high in front, one high in back, and one low. And that's your basic 3-vowel system. There are many, many languages in the world that have only 3 vowels. They might even have a large number of consonants. They could have 50 consonants, and yet it would still be very common to simply have 3 vowels. So that's very, very popular, and by far the most popular vowels in the world. After these 3, everything drops off quickly. And here we drop off to a second tier. So the second tier is A and O. These are the 2 middle tiers. So you can see like E, oo, ah go to the extremes. It's like a vowel triangle. And then the A and O, these 2 are like an intermediate step. These are the mid vowels. The mouth is kind of like half open. And here's if a language wants to have more than 3 vowels, wants to have some more contrasts possible, then this would be the next step. The by far most common next step is to have this extra middle layer of EO, and that's how we get our famous 5 vowel letters in our alphabet, just as were used in Latin, 5 vowels of Latin. We have E, oo, A, O, ah. And they are absolutely, this is the most popular system. So many languages have this 5-vowel system. It seems to work really well, and you see it over and over again. Such as, for example, in the Latin language itself, from which we get our alphabet. Of course, some people would say that English has 5 vowels, but that's only looking at the letters. We have 5 vowel letters in our writing system, but English has a lot more than 5 vowels when it comes to what we actually say. But that's why, because we only have 5 vowel letters, that's why I had to come up with all these weird letters here in order to express the other ones. So you see we're getting down to there's a big jump here where you have these 3 by far on the top, around 90%. Then we go around to 60% for these, and that gives your 5 vowel system. And then we have the next layer down to around the 35% level. This is where we have what's called open E and open O. So these are this layer. This is like another intermediate layer. Just as you imagine E, oo at the top and then ah at the bottom, that's your 3. You can add the A and the O to get to a 5 vowel system. And now if you want to have even more contrasts, you have E and O. So these are like lower or more open versions of E and O this creates the 7 vowel system. this creates which is another very popular vowel system, to have 7 variations. So you have I, A, E, U, O, O, and A at the bottom. So here we had to come up with extra letters. You kind of have a modified version of E to get E, modified version of O to get O. So that would be the next level, and you can see only about a third of languages have it, but still, you see, by far, these languages, these letters are by far the most popular. And you can see that languages tend to build up their systems based on this. You have the core of I, U, A, then you add A, O, and then you can add E, O. Now, the next set that we see here is the same vowels again repeating, but this time with these 2 dots, or they're actually 2 little triangles. This represents a long vowel. And so, you can argue about whether it's a different vowel or not. I mean, it's the same vowel quality in terms of the tongue being in the same position, but they act as different letters because, many languages, you basically make a different word by making the vowel long or short. And Latin had this as well, just didn't mark it in the alphabet. So here you can see I, A, U again, but now long version. And over here, A, O. So that would be the next popular thing. And here we see the new addition here is the famous schwa letter. Schwa being the letter in the absolute middle of the vowel space. This is the lazy vowel. This is the vowel when your tongue is in a neutral resting position and you just go, Very, very common vowel, and we see it all over in English. Like in the word like the, we have like that's an sound. It's not anything else. It's not the, thu, tha, they, though. It's just the. And that's what we see with the schwa there in the middle. And then we get down here to these vowels that have a tilde. These are nasalized vowels. So you get I, on, u. So you see this in languages like French, Portuguese. They have these nasal vowels acting as different phonemes than the regular vowel. And so when we go on, you get into the modified ones, even like the ones that we see in English, like I. That's a pretty unusual one, where we have this contrast between like I and I. 2 different versions, and we have between U and and so on. And it goes all the way down to the bottom. Let's see what some of the rarest ones are. All the way down to cases that only exist once. Yeah, well, okay, these are very fussy ones. Like this is just the sound A, which is very common, but we're gonna say, we're gonna put a little marker there to make it a bit of a low E. So it's like A. Okay, slightly. So these are some like fussy modifications. You can see like these little details here. This is like EE, which looks the same as just a long E. So that's just an artifact in the database. Like they could have recorded this as being a long E. Should have been counted as part of that. And yeah, you see a lot of different variations. And this goes to, if you're a linguist recording the vowels in a language, you say, well, it kind of sounds like A, but it's a little bit different. And then so you try to put all these little markers. You see there's more of these markers than you would see with the consonants, just because there's such a fuzziness to vowels, a liquidness that like you can just be slightly modified in so many different ways. So yeah, long list of all these unique cases down here. That's not even the end. Look, there's a whole bunch. Yeah, there's even more pages. Well, even more, like at least 4 more pages. All of these only have 1 instance in the database. So it really is quite possible to make a lot of unique vowels. But a lot of these are just very slightly modified versions of vowels that would sound familiar. Like this one is like, no, that one's not. This is not a normal one. This is a bit of an awkward one here. It's kind of like it's a bit like it'll sound a bit like but this one's like o. So, and then here's like a slightly modified, a lot of just slightly modified versions of more familiar vowels down here uniquely at the end. Okay, so now I want to take a look at English and see how do our vowels stack up in terms of their worldwide popularity. So take a look at English here. And I think once again, well, you see, well, actually this is the case even more than in the consonants. This is where the different dialects of English really make a difference. So if you think about all the different dialects of English, it's really in the vowels that almost all of the difference is. And you can see it's all part of vowels being more liquid and flexible, and they're slippery. They can kind of like quickly change from one thing to another. You have hello and you have hello. So you have all these like, English, you have like American, British, not quite hitting those vowels, but just you see the idea of like it's so easy for even different versions of the same language, like British English and American English, very, very close. Like it's almost the same language. It's considered to be the same language, just different dialects. And we have almost all the same grammar, almost all the same vocabulary, and almost all the same pronunciation of the consonants. But when you look at the vowels, there's really quite striking differences. Of course, that's what really brings out the differences between British and American English. But now, because I speak Canadian English, which is quite close to American, much closer to American than British, I will go for American here. So I will stop trying to sound British here with my vowels. All right, so we'll select segment class, so select vowels, and now we will search by representation. So here we find that the entire inventory, at least according to this particular inventory, yes, here it's all rare stuff. Like even this it's like the most popular. But the reason these are like we're so loaded with these rare ones is just because of the way that this particular linguist who made this particular inventory list, like they wrote down these very specific modified versions. Like here, this is just the vowel A. But because it's written as like this slightly modified I rather than a regular I, that takes it down to rare territory. And here even this is I. I've never seen it written this way, I. So that's interesting. And then we have This is the vowel, and a long version of the vowel. Ooh, so quite unique. I would like to see whether maybe we can get a different inventory that might be a bit more standard in its choices. So let's take a look at another version. Yeah, so you can see here, this is the same thing. This is American English, but you can see in this inventory, the author used somewhat more popular symbols for a lot of these things. So here we can have the choice, because you kind of like these symbols are kind of like these like international standards, and you just kind of like say, well, my language is close to this, and my language, the vowel is close to that, and you kind of just like find the closest one that fits. But depending on your interpretation, you could say, well, no, it's not exactly that. It's more of like this fussy little modified version of it, and so on. But here you see we have E and U as our most popular choice. So E and U, those are the basics. You can see, and they're far ahead of anything else. And otherwise, we get down to E and O. But you're not seeing the A there. And this is one thing where English is a little different, because this A vowel, so many languages have this basic low A. But English instead divides into two. We have A and O. It's like we take that low A and we divide it in half. One goes front, it's A, and one goes back, it's like O. This would be like cat and dog. And in the middle, it'd be like dog, cat, dog. That's kind of trying to be in the middle there, but it's like cat, dog. And that's where you see, here, this is our A, our low front. So yeah, only This A vowel, like in cat, is only a 7% vowel. So that's a good example of something that is very normal for us, English speakers, but it would be considered a bit unusual. Furthermore, this one, this is one that causes English learners a lot of trouble sometimes. This is like the vowel in the word up. Now, it's officially written as being back here. But you can see that this up, so the difference between like at and up, like, you know, it's like cap and cup. Those are really close. Like we can, you know, English speaker can hear them as a different vowel. Is it a cap or is it a cup? And we hear those as being different vowels, and yet for most languages of the world would not, well, actually not have either of those sounds. But then imagine it's even harder to be able to sort out the difference between them. Now we have it. This is like bit and put. We have these. This is sort of like, you know, kind of a funny version of E, and this is a funny version of oo. Actually not as rare as I thought, so a fair number of languages have them, but still a bit unusual. And then we have, here's a bit of a surprise I found for like the way that we say A and O. Now we think of it as A and O, and of course the A and O, these are like, you know, the fourth and fifth most popular vowels around the world. But the way that they're expressed in English is we kind of say A, and we say O, and that's a bit unusual. You can see written exactly like this, only 1%. I think there's some other ways of writing it that would give it higher than that, but still quite an unusual sound. And here we have the I and ow. I and ow also standing out as unusual. So for the most part, well, also one thing to notice is that here there are 15 vowels written. Okay, so many languages in the world have only 3 vowels. And you know, many more have 5 vowels, many have 7, but 15 vowels is a pretty high number of vowels. Of course, there are also languages that have 50 vowels, so it's not like extreme, but you know, compared to a lot of the world, there is quite a selection of vowels in English. Yeah, so there it is, a look at some of the most popular vowels around the world and how English stacks up. I'd be curious to hear which vowels do you have any vowels in languages that you're aware of that stand out as being maybe unusual vowels? Or what do you think of the English vowel system overall? And what's your favorite vowel? There's another question.